Welcome to video number 9 on C programming. The programs that we have been writing so far, they have been console applications. That means that the only way to run those programs is through the terminal window, and the only way to interact with those programs is through the terminal window. Our console applications so far has only been giving output to the terminal using the printf function. But what if we want to take input from the user? And to do that, I want to introduce the scanf function, which is what this video is about. The scanf and printf functions are part of the stdio library right here, which stands for standard input output. That's .h, that's a header file, which we'll talk more about that very soon. And then we include or import that whole library in this statement right here. As part of a previous video, I mentioned that a library is a collection of code that someone else has written. And you can imagine this include statement literally copy pasting the entire chunk of code that's in that library on top here so that we have access to that code in our program. So we have access to functions like scanf and printf. So let's start with an example, and then we'll just talk through that example. We have some squiggly lines here because that needs to be a string, of course. And then we have some squiggly lines down here because we are expecting a semicolon right there. All right, now let's try to run it. That outputs Yermun, that's my name. People call me G. Yermun is 29 years old. They are 1.8 meters tall. So this is a program just like we've seen before. We have declared some variables here and defined them to be Yermun 29 and 1.81 respectively. They are of different data types. This is a character array of length 50. This is an integer variable, and this is a floating point variable. Okay, so far so good. But now, what if we don't know the values of these variables ahead of time? Let's just remove the values that they are assigned to. Right, so these are just empty variables now. And then we want to take those variables from the user. So let's see how to do that. Okay, now let's add some comments. Okay, now let's run this program. So it is, we can see here that the printf function is outputting this text string to the terminal, input your first name, and then it's pausing. Okay, so let's give it my name and hit enter. And now it's on the second print here, so it's saying input your age as an integer. Okay, 29. Input, and now it's on the third print here, so input your height in meters. I'm roughly that tall. And then it prints out this final print statement. So what is happening here is that first it gets to this first print statement. It prints out input your name. And then this scanf function pauses the program, waits for you to write something, and then hit enter. And when you hit enter, it takes whatever you wrote and assigns that to the value of this variable that you gave here in the scanf function. And that goes for the same thing down here. You can see that I'm saying that this is supposed to be a string variable or a character array. This is supposed to be an integer, and this is supposed to be a float. So to be a little bit more specific about what the scanf function is doing, it takes some input from the user and then stores that input in memory. It expects you to pass a memory address so that it knows where to store it in memory. So you can see here that we're using this AND operator here. That is known as the address operator in C, and that gives us the address, memory address, where this variable is stored in memory, right? And so we're passing the address of this variable to the scanf function so that it knows where to store these inputs. For most data types, we have to write it this way. We have to write it with this address operator. But you should notice that the name variable here, which is a character array, we didn't have to do it. And that's because character arrays works a little bit differently. Essentially, when the compiler reads this code, it becomes, this character array becomes a pointer to the first character in the character array. And I'll make a dedicated video for pointers later, so don't worry if you don't understand this right now. But just remember that character arrays, for character arrays, you don't have to add this address operator, but for most data types you do have to do. All right, now let's look at an example from the previous videos. This is the same code that you're pretty familiar with at this point. The program calculates the area of a circle by using the radius of the circle and the value of pi. Here you have the value for pi to 20 digit or 20 decimal places, and then you have the radius of the circle assigned to this value, 12.4. So now what if we want to change this? We want to actually take this value from the user, and so we can calculate the area of any circle and any radius. So to do that, we will just remove the assignment operator and the value right there. And then we will add a print statement here. And then we're going to add this scanf function. Print is not a function. We need to add the f. And let's run it again. There we go. Okay, so the input the radius of the circle in centimeters. Let's say that it is 2.1, something like that. And you can see that our code now outputs the area of the circle is 13.8 roughly. If we run it again, you can see that if I give it a different value, we get a different output. So this is the point that I wanted to make, right? That, you can make your code dynamic now. It's not so static. The value of the radius in this program is no longer hard-coded. It is taken as an input by the user, and the output will change based on the input. So today we have gone over the scanf function that lets us take input from the user. A little shorter video today, but it's a very important video. I think it'll be very useful to have this tool in our tool belt going forward.